Hello friends. The not so patiently awaited video of how I had a baby on my bathroom floor is now here, okay? I really hope that this lives up to everybody's expectations. Everybody is so excited about this story, and like I feel like everyone is thinking it's like this super dramatic like sequence of events, and it doesn't feel that dramatic to me. So I will try to be as concise as possible in this. I do want to start by saying I was supposed to give birth in Bloomington at the birth center, which is about an hour away from me. And secondly, Aspen's original due date was 9/9, and when we went to our first appointment, they did like the dated ultrasound and told me my due date was now 8/30. Keep that little tidbit of information up in your brain because it's going to make sense later. So let's get into this. I woke up early Friday morning, like 3:30, with like light cramping. When I say light cramping, I mean light cramping, okay? Just like you would get like your period. It was a little bit more than like the Braxton Hicks I had been having, but still nothing for me to be like, oh shoot, I'm in labor. So it took me a little bit to see what was going on. By like 4:15 or 4:30, I was like, okay, these kind of feel like they're probably contractions at this point. But I still wasn't like, oh God, this is an emergency. Like we need to, freak out or anything like that. For context, when I was at that point with Denver, I did not have him for another 26 hours. Okay? So that's a long time that I thought that I still had. I didn't think I had 24 hours this time because it was my second kid, and I know that they go faster. But still, just a little context. So I was like, I'm just gonna finish packing my bag. I'm gonna get my hair out of my face and I'm gonna make breakfast because I'm assuming that I'm probably gonna have a baby today later, okay? So I went out and ate breakfast and like sat on the exercise ball for a little while, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna like go lay down, try to relax, by like 5, Stormy came in and was like, what do we got going? And I'm like, I mean, they're definitely contractions. So I started timing them, but they were all over the place. They were like 15 minutes apart, 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, a minute long, 30 seconds long. They were just all over the place. So like a general rule of thumb when you're in labor and like when to start like going to your place of birth is like when your contractions are 5 minutes apart, lasting at least 1 minute each for the duration of an hour. Okay. So I was not at that point yet at 5. But I knew that they were contractions. And I was still managing really well, like pain, breathing through them, the whole in for 4 and out for 6, and all of that, like managing just fine. So by like 5:45, I was like, okay, they're pretty consistent-ish. So I'm gonna call the midwife. So I called the midwife like just before 6 and was like, hey, my contractions are anywhere from like 5 to 7 minutes apart. They are about a minute long at this point, and it's been about 45 minutes or so of this. She was like, okay, you can head on in if you want. But again, like nobody knows how long that could last. Like that portion of labor could last 6 hours. You know, you just don't know. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna call my mom, and once she gets here, we'll leave, and then I'll call you when we're on our way. And she was like, okay. So I get off the phone and call my mom. It's like 6 a.m. at this point. And I was like, hey, can you come get Denver? And she's like, yeah. This is where it gets quite dicey. Between 6 and 6:30, 30-minute span, things escalated so fast, okay? I stopped timing my contractions at 6. And I don't really like quite remember what was happening in that time. I just remember my mannerisms really changed from like breathing in and out to the ooh, like keeping, you know, you're supposed to keep your voice low and like mooing basically through these contractions, okay? And I was like getting a little bit louder and a little bit louder. Stormy was taking care of Denver this whole time. He was like getting him out of bed, got him breakfast, got him ready to go with my parents, all of that. And he said that Denver was like saying that I was making airplane noises because of how it sounded out in the kitchen. So apparently labor to a toddler sounds like an aircraft. So I don't know, it's like 6:20 maybe. And my parents get there. And I remember Denver coming in the bedroom, and I was on my hands and knees leaning over the trash can because I kept thinking I was going to throw up. And he said bye. And so Stormy was just like, you know, behind me, and he was like, we've got to get to the car. And I was like, oh God, an hour drive. Yikes. But at this time, I'm not thinking that we're not going to make it. I'm just like, I don't want to get in the car. I am going to throw up. But then I didn't throw up. And by like 6:25, so like 5 minutes had passed, and I was like, Stormy, I think I'm pushing. But I couldn't like wrap my head around how I got to this point already. Like your body, it's involuntary when it's pushing. It's called fetal ejection reflex, okay? Your body is doing it. Like I can't fight it. But I'm so like still clear-headed that I'm like, how is this happening? How am I pushing? So I had another contraction where I felt like I needed to push at the same time. So I pushed and my water broke. So this is like 6:30. I'm on my hands and knees by my bed. And I am so glad that I had pants on because Stormy was behind me. And I swear to God, you know those like big Menards buckets? Yeah. If you dropped like a full one of those on the floor, that's what it sounded like in my head when my water broke. Stormy said that it did not sound like that, but I swear to God, I would have like, if I didn't have pants on, I swear he would have been soaked. It would have been a mess. So glad that I had pants on. Anyways, yeah, water breaks at 6:30. Again, in my head, I'm like, oh no, this car ride is going to be so much worse now because my water bag is not protecting my cervix. Now it's going to, like, the contractions are going to get more intense because it's going to open my cervix more. And I was like, oh no. So Stormy's like, okay, Sam, we have to get to the car. But I felt so much pressure down there that I was like, you know what? If I go to the bathroom, I think I have to go to the bathroom. I just have to poop. And once I poop, then we can get in the car and go. Like, what? So I take my pants off, and I needed Stormy's assistance to get to the bathroom. The way that I was walking, I was like sideways, and he was like holding my arm, and I was like hobbling like you would if a human is coming out of you. That walk felt like approximately 600 miles. It's maybe 20 feet. Anyways, I got to the toilet and I was like, okay, now I can poop, I guess. And I felt down below and I was like, oh no. I was like, I'm prolapsing. I was like, I was pushing too hard earlier and now I'm prolapsing. And this is going to be so bad for my pelvic floor. Still not thinking it was a baby. I had another contraction and I felt like more pressure. And I felt down there again and I was like, oh no, Sam, that's her head. That's not prolapse, that's her head. And quite honestly, I had so much relief. I was like, oh, it's her head, not prolapse. That's good. So then I was like, all right, well, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna have this baby right here. So I asked Stormy for some towels and we put the towels on the floor and I just like instinctively got on my hands and knees, which is a good thing because gravity helps the baby come down. And it's very efficient for your pelvis. So I'm on my hands and knees, contracting, pushing. And I told Stormy, I was like, her head is right there, Stormy. Like, her head is going to come out. Like, you know, I was like, I think that we should call 911. Because I knew that if I had a baby at home, you have to go to the hospital, which is like a whole nother tangent for me. He was on the phone with a midwife and she was like, yeah, you guys are going to have to call 911 because you're too far away from the birth center at this point, to be, you know, transferred there. And I was like, ugh. While he was on the phone, I had a contraction and was like, I yelled, like with the push and contraction. And I was like, oh no, like you need to be kind of quiet. He's on the phone. Like, who cares? You're in labor. Shut up. So he called 911 at 9:37. He was off the phone by, 6:37. He was off the phone by 6:38. I was like, hey, Stormy, her head's gonna come out. And I'm on my hands and knees and I just pushed like that and her head came out. And so I just grabbed her head and I felt the back of her face. And then I did another push. And then I was just holding my baby. She was just crying. And I was just holding her. Like, that is literally all that happened. And I just like looked up at Stormy and I was like, look what I have. And so he called 911 back and was like, yeah, she had the baby. And they were like, okay, well, the ambulance will be there as soon as they can. Like, so I just sat on the bathroom floor and held her in a towel, made sure she was warm. She cried right away. Her color looked good. Like, she was alert. Everything was fine with her. So we just waited for EMS. And once they got there, they came in and they were like, good morning, are you okay? And like, you know, kind of concerned. And I was like the chillest one. I was like, oh no, guys, like I'm so good. Like, I'm perfectly fine. I'm not happy about going to the hospital right now because if I had given birth at the birth center, I would have been going home 4 hours after I birthed my child. Now I have a 24-hour stay in the hospital. Anyways, they were all really great and like concerned and like, you know, helpful, but I was like, I don't know. I feel okay, guys. So the umbilical cord quit pulsing. So Stormy clipped the cord, they put the clamp on, and I got up and walked to the stretcher. And then they wheeled me out of my house, which is like oddly so embarrassing for no reason. Like, I don't know. They put me in the ambulance, and sorry guys, I'm making lots of noises. They put me in the ambulance, and I just birthed my placenta in there, and they scooped it up, and we made our way to the hospital. That is all that happened, guys. Truly, that is just the chain of events. I started having cramping at 3:30, and she was born at 6:39. That's it. It happened incredibly fast. Not so prepared for that, but that's okay. I read through all the comments on Stormy's post, which I appreciate every single one of them. There were some that were like, oh my goodness, like that could have been so terrifying, how scary, things like that. And I wasn't scared. I had zero fear the entire time, and I just trusted my body and knew exactly what needed to be done. That is just truly, I believe, because I have taken such an interest in birth and the process. I know all the sequence of hormones that happens, the cardinal movements of labor, everything that I need to know. And I trusted my body to do it, and it did it. Not saying that that is something that people should be doing without like some sort of supervision from a professional, like a midwife or a doula or an OB. Don't recommend just like willy-nilly giving birth on your bathroom floor. However, I am glad that I had the education that I do, because it made that experience actually very cool for me. An experience that I will get to remember forever. So why is the due date important? I am a huge like numbers person. Like numbers hold a lot of significance for me. 8 and 30 are my two favorite numbers. They have been since I was like, I don't know, young, okay? 8 is my lucky number, and then 30 is the number that I've worn for like sports. And her due date being 8:30, I was like, God, that would be so cool if she was born on her due date. But only 4 or 5% of babies are actually born on their due date. The science behind due dates is incredibly flawed, I think. And it has not been updated in a long time. There's so many variables that could alter a woman's cycle, like that would alter her due date. Which is why my due date changed from 9/9 to 8/30. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I don't think that this was a coincidence that this happened. While it was not the plan to give birth at home, and I had full intentions of making it to the birth center, I just can't help but think that it was meant to happen this way. Sorry if I get emotional. Those are my two favorite numbers. She was born exactly on her due date in a way that was like so transcendent for me. It just very much like proves or like gives backing to like what I feel so called to in life right now, and that is like advocating for women in childbirth. I don't think it was an accident that it happened. And I'm like secretly glad that it did. Because I get to have this memory forever. Like, I get to say that I gave birth to my own child in my own home, essentially by myself. And I get to tell her that one day, and nobody can take that away from me. I really struggle to like give myself credit for stuff, and this is just like a little bit different because I'm actually proud of myself, and like I didn't dismiss anything that I did, and I'm just like really, really proud that I was able to do that without having fear and being confident in my body and like trusting the whole process. And I wish that like more women could experience that. I'm so glad that I was able to do that. So I'm gonna try to stop crying. I just want to say that if anybody takes anything away from this, it's that to empower yourself through education so you can advocate for yourself. Even if you're in a hospital setting, I think it's really important. Your birth partner who's next to you matters. I could not have been as calm as I was had I not had Stormy. Stormy's demeanor is very calm. He doesn't get worked up about anything. And third, it's to trust yourself. And that's kind of it. If anybody has like questions, you can ask. I'm an open book, and I actually really love talking about this stuff. I'm sure nobody's surprised by that. I know this is a really long video, but if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. And you will not be hearing this story again because I am not having any more children. But I hope that it helps somebody feel confident to give birth in any capacity, whether that's in a hospital, in their home, or at a birth center like I intended to do. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, ask away.